What's something you're not convicted is anywhere near as common as Reddit makes it out to be. Story 1. That your relationship problems should result in you getting a divorce or cutting a family member out of your life completely is easy to say over the internet. In real life, relationships are complicated and messy, even more so when it's a spouse or a family member. Also, the concept that you should just talk to the person you are having an issue with seems to be lost on all of the teenagers and college-age kids that populate the advice subreddits. Story 2. Men being creepy around kids. I know quite a few single fathers, and many more not single fathers that still take their kids out without the mom. Not a single one has ever said anything about feeling judged or anything of the sort. They do get the babysitting nonsense though. Story 3. I get the feeling Reddit thinks the rules of society should be rewritten to be optimal for low-energy, cynical, introverted, neurodivergent people with some mental health issues. I say this as someone who falls into this exact category, but we are relatively rare, and I really don't think we can spend a lot of energy waiting for the world to change so we can feel optimally comfortable. Story 4. Dad subreddits are full of tales of dads with their kids at playgrounds who are accosted by suspicious women thinking that something fishy is going on. You would think this happens all the time and that all dads are presumed to be pedophiles unless they can prove blood relation at the drop of a hat. This just seems crazy to me. I have never experienced this, and nobody I know has ever experienced this. Anecdotal, sure, but it is crazy how often I see these stories posted. Story 5. Kids never go outside anymore. I'm sure this is somewhat true depending on countries and neighborhoods. I've seen this countless times as an international issue. I live next to a playground. I can't get anything done during the day without the sounds of kids playing in the park, or kids using it as a hangout after dark. Story 6. Eating that area. If I went by Reddit comments, it would seem that 9 out of 10 people see placing your mouth on a bottom as just another common sexual practice, not even a fetish. Needless to say, I don't think it's a common taste at all. Story 7. The amount of times I see people suggesting breaking up or divorcing their partners is a lot. Most issues can be settled through conversation. If you both want different things in your life, then maybe split if you're on wildly different pages, such as one wants kids and the other does not. If you want the same thing but want to get there differently, then have the conversation and try to compromise. Story 8. Everyone apparently has a damaged psyche because of the way parenting was handled in the 90s. Also, the way parenting was handled before 2010 is inherently bad for and permanently damaging to your children. Story 9. The dominance of darkness. The idea that most people are driven by some kind of agenda and that everyone has an ideology that they would rather kill their neighbor over than budge on. We are a paranoid bunch. We see a lot of division here, a lot of bitterness and spite and outrage, and our bubble tells us the whole world is like that. We need sanctuaries like uplifting news and awe, love them both, to help us deal with all the negativity. The truth is that there are more kind people out there than those who are not kind. More love than hate. We should not forget that Reddit is not the world. For every terrible thing we rage about, there are 100 small beauties. People save animals and help each other all the time, everywhere, and only a tiny percentage of it ends up on Reddit. Strangers become friends, and no one gets attacked. Kids whoop and play. Billions of people sing and dance and love and live, and never stop to think about hate. Hope and joy spring eternal. Reddit has a nihilism fetish and a tendency for casual cruelty. We need to see the glimmer of the bubble and remember to look beyond it. There's more light out than this place would have you believe. Story 10. Hatred of children, and a lot of chronically online child-free people talk about all the times they've been horribly oppressed, tortured, and inconvenienced by children or parents or family members who are just curious about whether they want to have children. Like, I've been child-free for over 95% of my entire life, and I never remember having these experiences, nor have I ever met anyone in real life with those experiences. Even the edgiest-looking young people smile and wave at my toddler. The child hate is mostly just chronically online individuals. Story 11. Cuckolding and open relationships are not common at all in real life. Pornography wants you to think every man is turned on by their wife being with someone else and that the husband is just happy she is happy. It's total nonsense. You have a higher likelihood of being divorced for proposing an open relationship than you do of your partner agreeing to one. Sure, there are some who get off on it, but it's rarely put into practice, and there are lots of ruined marriages because people fall for the nonsense. Story 12. People gifting large amounts of a certain food. In the cooking subreddits, there's always someone going, I was gifted a large amount of underserved and I'm looking for ways to use it. It doesn't seem real to me. I can't see someone coming up to me and being like, hey, I got all these extra underserved. I'm probably wrong. I know I likely am, but that's always been weird to me. Story 13. Movie theater experiences. I've gone to movies all my life across the US, and the amount of calls crying weird stuff is less than what I can count on one hand. Yet, Reddit tells you movie theaters are terrible and the worst because of other people ruining it. Story 14. Extreme hatred of fat people. As a plus-sized woman, you would think I would get screamed at and spit on walking down the street, but people pretty much ignore me. Nobody really cares that much what other people look like outside of Reddit. Story 15. Perhaps it's just the Catholic side of me, but I find it odd how some men act strangely around children. Granted, the only time I'm interacting with children who aren't family members is at church, but if a child is having a difficult time in front of me or beside me and they just want to color, I'll color with them. This allows the parents to focus during the mass and keeps the child calm. Story 16. Guys who don't wash their backside because they think it's improper. That's such a Reddit trope, but the number of people who actually fit that description can probably be counted on one hand. Do too many people not wash their backside? Sure. Because they think it's improper? Not a chance. Reddit got baited in by one person with a story, and it gradually grew into, did you know that a lot of guys? Story 17. Non-binary or transgender individuals becoming upset if they're misgendered. I spent most of my adult life in one of the most LGBTQ+ friendly towns in the country. I'm not at all disturbed by people challenging gender norms. I don't mess up the pronouns often. But when I have, listen, brains and language are strange, it takes time to reprogram our language patterns. The person has invariably just said something to the effect of, oh, actually it's she or her. And then I say, oh yes, sorry. And they say, it's okay. People are so primed to see the stereotypical, overly sensitive LGBTQ+ individual. In the real world, most people are pretty reasonable. Story 18. Well, the entire reason this question occurs is because of the internet, in my humble opinion. With so much becoming algorithm-based, you're inclined to see more of things that confirm existing bias or run parallel to similar issues. I worked in the service department of a dealership, and my service manager often noted that if you do the job long enough, all cars seem to be terrible. But it's only because we were where the broken cars came to get fixed, so that's all we'd see. Story 19. Wearing condoms. In my social circles, usually, if a woman is on birth control, the use of condoms stops pretty quickly. Reddit would have you think men only stop using them when married and ready to conceive. People get tested for sexually transmitted diseases with every partner, and almost every woman has a terrible reaction to birth control and can't take it. Story 20. People virtue signaling how disgusted or offended they are by something. It is always something mundane and really not out of the ordinary. However, all the comments are people screaming for "I bleach" or beginning to have been told not to have clicked. Story 21. Misbehaving children. According to Reddit, you can't step foot into a restaurant without encountering a demon child. And yet I can count on one hand every time I was actually disrupted by a child throwing a genuine tantrum. Story 22. Hating one's parents? The number of kids here who have professed to have gone no contact or who talk about parents as a disposable resource to be discarded at the first opportunity is really astonishing. Story 23. Preachy vegans. I've never once met a preachy zealous vegan, and if I do ever meet one, I'm not going to wish harm on them for their personal philosophy. I'm not a vegan. I'm lacto-vegetarian, so I can relate a lot to the seemingly undue hate that they get. To me, it just seems that obsessively hating vegans or veganism seems like one of those things that people do just to look cool and fit in. Story 24. Attractive people getting free stuff. I've known an actual Victoria's Secret model, and even at her peak of fame, she never received half of the stuff most of these people claim to get just for being attractive. Story 25. Being diagnosed with infertility-related issues in your early 20s, and ever since the fight, My roommate's family has been blowing up my phone type things. How does your roommate's whole family have your number? Story 26. I am a part of insert group, and I feel unsafe living in insert state of different political party. There are definitely evil people no matter where you go, but the idea that going to certain states in the US will result in immediate harm or danger is something Reddit has overblown, in my opinion. Story 27. Abusive parents, not everyone had them. Horrible ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends. If all your exes are horrible, the problem is you. Karens exist, but if you are spotting Karens doing their thing more than once or twice a year, the unusual one is you. Story 28. Bosses, co-workers, workplaces from hell. Reddit would have you believe that every workplace is a third world sweatshop filled with the meanest or the stupidest people you can imagine. When no, I'm 28 years old, been working since 19. I've never worked with or for anyone who was more than at worst just a little discourteous. And the few actually bad stories of boss, employee, coworker behavior I've heard from other people, and I do mean a few, always end with, and that person got fired. Story 29. I made a fool out of myself the other day when I encountered a fellow millennial in the wild. She started talking about her puppies, so I, of course, demanded a dog tax. Oh, the look of confusion she gave me. Laugh out loud. Cringe. Story 30. False rape accusations are incredibly rare, yet Reddit seems to bring them up every time sexual assault is mentioned, specifically against women. When it's men as victims, you hear different stories, but not a peep about false accusations.